You know, it's not like California doesn't know how to regulate. Oh, they know. They know. We are the most regulated state in the nation with more than 395,000 regulatory restrictions. It is a constant nightmare of inspectors and permits and fees. In this state, if you get to your car 10 seconds after the parking meter expires, it's already gone and you'll never see it again.
Bill Maher keeps going after California Governor Gavin Newsom, calling him out for seeming to ignore his own state while clearly aiming for a presidential run.
And listen, I don't have some personal vendetta against almonds. They're just not more important than the entire ecosystem of California. So when I hear that our state grows 81% of the whole world's almonds, the world's thirstiest crop, while our reservoirs run dry and giant fires burn out of control, I have a few questions, starting with what the This is life and death, and almonds are just not crucial.
Even though Newsom hasn't made anything official yet, many people believe he's quietly setting himself up for a presidential run once his time as governor is over. But Maher says that idea should be shut down fast unless Newsom moves himself back toward the political center. Maher's takedown was sharp, tough, and didn't let up for a second. So go ahead, hit subscribe now, and let's get started.
California did a real California thing and banned business travel from any of its state employees to any state in America where the laws about gender identity and expression weren't up to California standards, forgetting that no one is ever up to California standards. Which meant that any Cali state worker, from congressmen to college football coaches, weren't allowed to visit on business half the country, evil totalitarian police states like Iowa. But Tony Atkins said, having grown up lesbian in the South, I know from personal experience growing up in a rural community where it is more conservative, that the way to change people's minds is to have direct contact. Polarization is not working. So last year, California repealed the ban. We can trade with Ohio again!
California, sitting right in the middle of today's woke movement, made a surprising move by cutting business ties with states that don't share its political views. Under Governor Newsom, the state started projecting a sense of moral superiority, acting like it's on a higher ethical level than the rest of the country. The message felt pretty clear: agree with us or you're out. But that kind of political gatekeeping comes at a cost. You can't shut out half the country and expect your economy, influence, and credibility to stay the same. Markets don't run on moral posturing. They depend on cooperation, trade, and mutual benefit. When leadership turns into a political purity test, it slowly weakens its own foundation. What was once presented as a strong moral stance now looks more like self-imposed isolation. And over time, the cost could easily outweigh whatever short-term praise it gained.
You can't call it a drought if it happens all the time. In a story I'm getting tired of reporting, California is running out of water, and this time just when we started showering again. 19,000 acres of forest have already burned this year, and 72% of the entire West is in severe drought. Turns out hot girl summer is for reals. The Bay Area was just placed under a water shortage emergency with mandatory restrictions. Except here's the thing, there isn't, even with the drought, really a water shortage problem. It's more a where the water is going problem. California agriculture accounts for 80% of our water use, even though California agriculture is less than 2% of our economy.
Next, Maher turned his focus to the constant wildfires that hit California every year, leaving neighborhoods in ruins and families trying to rebuild their lives. In his view, the real issue isn't a lack of water supply or even water collection. He argues the bigger problem is how the state manages the water it already has. According to him, things start to fall apart at the leadership level, where priorities shift and real preparation takes a backseat to political showmanship. So when fires break out, reservoirs end up too low and firefighters are left battling massive blazes without the support they truly need. At that point, it stops looking like just a natural disaster and starts to feel like something that could have been prevented. Maher says this pattern points to a deeper issue, a culture of poor leadership tied directly to Governor Newsom. In his view, this isn't about nature being unpredictable. It's about leaders being unprepared, ineffective, and not taking responsibility for their own decisions.
We actually have enough water. We just give way too much of it to farmers who get their water subsidized by the government because we still act like it's 1890 and farmers are small and independent when they're really mostly part of big ag. Old MacDonald is now E-I-E-I-O Incorporated. And corporations get what they want in America. We have spent the last 2 decades in perpetual drought here, yet almond farmers in California have doubled in that time, despite the fact that almond production alone uses more water than all the humans and businesses in San Francisco and Los Angeles combined.
Now, here's where things really start to get interesting. More than 80% of California's developed water supply goes to agriculture, and a large share of that is used to grow almonds, an industry that doesn't even make up a quarter of the state's total economy. Let that sink in for a moment. In a state that constantly warns about droughts, water shortages, and strict conservation rules, one crop is quietly using a huge portion of its most important resource. Naturally, that brings up some tough questions about priorities. Why would a state dealing with repeated water crises allow such an uneven setup to continue? Why is a resource so essential for public safety, firefighting, and everyday life being directed so heavily into one industry? It starts to look like political decisions, lobbying influence, and economic favoritism may be driving policy more than simple common sense, leaving regular residents to deal with the consequences.
Look at this chart of how much water it takes to grow different crops. Oranges, tomatoes, strawberries all take about 11 gallons to make 1 pound. Almonds, 1,900 gallons. That wasn't a problem back when it rained, but now there simply isn't enough water to go around, and we have to make a painful choice, getting it to the people or getting it in the nuts.
Yes, when it came down to the tough choice between supplying water to people or keeping large almond farms running, California under Newsom appeared to lean toward the farms. That's the perception many critics are holding on to, that protecting major agricultural interests has taken priority over protecting homes, communities, and everyday livelihoods. While residents deal with strict limits, rising utility costs, and the constant risk of wildfires, huge amounts of water continue flowing to large-scale farms. For many, it feels like regular people are being asked to give up more, while powerful industries face little impact. The result is growing frustration and a deep sense of distrust. When homes are lost and reservoirs drop to dangerously low levels, people don't just see a natural disaster. They see what looks like priorities being revealed in real time. Fair or not, that perception is fueling anger across the state and strengthening the belief that leadership decisions have played a direct role in California's ongoing challenges and an uncertain future.
I have a few questions, starting with what the This is life and death, and almonds are just not crucial. No one has a t-shirt that says, "Don't talk to me till I had my almonds."
And honestly, who wouldn't be worried? How does a state end up looking like it values almonds more than its own people, communities, and even its environment? To critics, it's a warning sign of a deeper problem, where economic power and political strategy start to outweigh common sense and the public interest. When residents are told to cut back on water while large agricultural operations keep running at full speed, the contradiction is hard to ignore. From this perspective, California starts to look like a state struggling with misplaced priorities, and the impact is becoming more visible. Infrastructure is under pressure, public trust is slipping, and frustration keeps growing. Maher's warning goes beyond policy. It's about political reality. If voters begin linking Newsom to poor decisions and avoidable crises, those issues could follow him and cast a serious shadow over any future presidential ambitions.
And almonds are just not crucial. No one has a t-shirt that says, "Don't talk to me till I had my almonds." They're fine in salads or in a gift basket for someone you don't really care about. And an almond joy is nice to have, but it's really just a Mounds bar with There will still be almonds in the world, even if they're not grown in places that never get rain. If we can direct coal miners in West Virginia to another line of work because coal is us, we should be able to tell almond farmers, you can't grow almonds where they don't grow anymore. You're bogarting the water.
Maher's point hits hard. If a state like West Virginia could dramatically scale back coal mining, an industry that shaped its economy for generations, then why can't California rethink how it uses one of its most essential resources, water? Leadership, after all, is about making tough choices and setting priorities that protect long-term stability, not just short-term economic convenience. Newsom and his team have the ability to put policies in place that balance water use, keeping reservoirs full for emergencies, communities, and the environment. Even redirecting a small portion toward public needs could strengthen the state's defenses against droughts and wildfires. Critics say ignoring this imbalance sends a risky message that powerful industries can continue business as usual while ordinary residents bear the burden of conservation and suffer the consequences when water runs low.
We are the most regulated state in the nation with more than 395,000 regulatory restrictions. It is a constant nightmare of inspectors and permits and fees. In this state, if you get to your car 10 seconds after the parking meter expires, it's already gone and you'll never see it again. California has rules about every nitpicky thing you can imagine. If you don't believe me, try parking in Santa Monica.
That's what makes this contradiction so striking. California is famous for being one of the most heavily regulated states in the country, with layers of rules covering everything from construction to environmental compliance. Maher even joked about feeling buried under a mountain of permits, approvals, and inspections just to replace his garage door. It's a clear example of how deeply regulation is built into the system. So the question almost answers itself. If the state can exercise that much control over something as minor as a garage door, why can't it apply the same oversight to something as vital as water distribution? Why not regulate agricultural production, including almonds, to ensure water is directed where it's needed most, reservoirs, emergency preparedness, and the broader public good, especially during droughts and crises?
You can't fly a kite in a park in Beverly Hills, or ride a bicycle, or climb a tree. But for 30 years, Nestle took water out of the San Bernardino National Forest under a permit that expired in 1988. And Coca-Cola is somehow allowed to take water from municipal water supplies, stick it in bottles, and sell it back to the taxpayers who own the water to begin with. 395,000 regulations, but somehow that slipped through the cracks?
Maher lands another sharp, uncomfortable point. California loves to brag about being one of the most heavily regulated states in the country. Yet huge corporations keep operating despite obvious violations and failures. He highlighted companies like Coca-Cola and Nestle, showing that even in a system full of rules, enforcement often falls short. And it's not just about bottled water. There have been disastrous infrastructure failures too. Aging power lines left unreplaced that sparked fires, destroying entire neighborhoods. That's why critics are so frustrated. On paper, California is packed with regulations meant to protect people and prevent disasters. In reality, those protections often fail. Maher's question is simple but powerful. What's the point of strict rules if they can't stop clearly preventable harm?
For a state that just loves to be up everybody's all the time, water management might be a better place to direct that instinct. I mean, where is the heavy hand of government when you need it? Californians can live without nuts. Just ask Caitlyn Jenner. But
here's the bottom line. Californians can live without almonds, but they cannot live without water. Water isn't just for drinking, cooking, or sanitation. It's crucial for public safety, farming, and keeping a livable environment. It's a resource the state produces, manages, and charges residents for, which comes with a clear responsibility to make sure it goes where it's needed most. Yet, a shocking portion of that water continues to flow to almond farms, an industry that, while economically significant, doesn't affect the daily survival of millions of people. Common sense says it's far smarter to put citizens and critical infrastructure first when distributing water. Keeping reservoirs full, communities protected, and ecosystems healthy should always be the top priority. Redirecting water to the people who truly need it isn't just smart, it's a moral and civic duty. And with that, we'll wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit that like button and subscribe for more bold political commentary. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.